because I think another part of the debate, and I know tonight we want to get to some of the claims against Israel, and it has to do with the rights to that land, right? But before we go into that, I would like to talk about some of the other players, and I brought up Iran. So maybe we can talk about that.
That sounds great. Well, when it comes to Iran, as many of you know, and I think maybe if you don't mind, we could even step back a little bit because they are also with the BRICS alliance of nations now. They've been invited in the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And now they, as of August, added 6 more members, including Iran, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates.
Let me ask you a question.
Emirates and Argentina.
How many people here are not familiar with BRICS and the BRICS nations? Would you raise your hand if you're not familiar with that? So I think we don't want to use phrases that people are not familiar with. And so let's talk just briefly about what BRICS is.
Sorry for the rabbit trail there.
No, this is good.
Yeah, but the BRICS nations basically was an alliance that was formed in 2009. South Africa added in 2010. And the goal was basically to come against the United States and the Western countries and their global dominance. They wanted to have a stronger footprint in regards to the affairs of their own nations. And so they formed this alliance. And now, as of 2023, this alliance will represent 75% of the world population.
So BRICS, what does the word mean?
It's for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
BRICS. And those were the first nations to form this alliance. Again, the idea was to dethrone the American dollar. And the American dollar is the trading currency of the world, has been, and thus dominance, the United States dominance on the economic affairs of the world. And they wanted to, again, dethrone the US dollar because it was giving the United States a lot of power when it came to let's say, for example, Russia.
Yeah, and able to weaponize the dollar against Russia during the Ukraine war.
To bring sanctions.
Exactly right.
Dollar sanctions on these countries was a very, very heavy matter. And so these BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, wanting to dethrone that, formed an organization, and that they want to trade without using the dollar, which, by the way, the predominant nation that's driving BRICS is?
China. Communist Party.
China. So we need to pay close attention to what the influence of China is in the world. If you follow our podcast, you know that we pay close attention to the matters of China and their influence economically. Now, the goal of these BRICS nations, by the way, is no longer just 5. And you just mentioned there's quite a few who have been added.
6 more have been added.
Including Iran, which I think is very, very important. Because now we are seeing a new alliance of nations. There's a shifting of nations that we see happening today.
Yeah, they call it the axis of resistance.
Resisting
the West.
The West. And predominantly the United States.
And speaking of China, if I may, real quickly, their stated goal is global domination by 2049. The 100-year anniversary of the Communist Party being formed in China. So that is their stated goal.
And I believe that their method is to use the BRICS nation to get them there. They will arise and they will dominate. That's their intent.
It's been happening for many, many years through unrestricted warfare, different ways to weaken the United States without firing a weapon, without it becoming kinetic.
Did you know that China, I know we're off a little bit here on China.
I'm glad it's your turn this time.
They are buying rights to ports all over the world and in the United States. They have rights to ports in the United States. They are buying massive amounts of farmland in the heartland of America.
By the way, they're buying a lot of land next to military bases as well.
So we want to pay close attention.
That balloon was probably just a coincidence, a little accident, off navigation.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But this is important because it does have to do with what's happening right now in Israel.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, the Pentagon says their nuclear arsenal will be doubled by 2030. They've stationed naval assets in the Middle East and China. And by the way, speaking of China, they're on the verge of economic collapse.
That is another factor.
And it is interesting because of the real estate snafu they got going on right now, kind of a house of cards.
Yeah. They have been investing heavily all over the world. By the way, Matthew and I have been in Africa many times, and we have seen the influence of China in Africa. They are putting their footprint all over the world.
The Belt and Road Initiative, it's called.
And we have seen it for ourselves. I remember when our church had we bought some property in Tanzania, and we went to review it, and our first journey there was over rough roads, and it was quite a journey. And then we went back not that long ago, and what year was that? I forget. Anyway, and they have
Well, we were there in 2020, right when the breaking out of the COVID.
Brand new road. I go, wow, this is 5-lane. Wow, and they said, China.
Never forget
They're building the infrastructure on debt and then making all of these nations beholden to to China. And that is that growing influence. They're making Belt and Road Initiative, making nations beholden to them because their stated goal is world domination by 2049. But they have their own dilemma because they are weakening.
But they're coming to the United States. Xi's going to be here next week, as was announced, to meet with Biden on the West Coast here.
We will be paying close
attention. And isn't it interesting that they're saying, could you help us even though we're your enemy?
That will be interesting to follow.
Yeah.